Welcome back, everybody, to our 19th episode of Tuesday Night Healing. I got Stormy here with me. Stormy, if you want to say hi.
Hey everyone.
So, we were going to do our self-harm one today, but I got a little messed up because I've been having some health issues going on, and I actually got taken out of my job last Wednesday in an ambulance because my whole left side went numb. Like my whole left arm, everything. I couldn't move my fingers. Like it was just one of the scariest things I've ever experienced. And of course, people tell you that when this sort of thing happens, that it might be a heart attack or something. I mean, obviously, I'm very young, so it's unlikely. But you know what I mean. It's something that definitely crossed my mind, and it threw me into like a panic state when it was going on. So you know what I mean. It was scary. It was definitely scary. So that's why I didn't do the book review last Thursday. And I should have posted something, but I was just so preoccupied because I didn't even get feeling back into my hands until like Saturday. So I was kind of just posted up on my couch watching TV and stuff like that because, I didn't know what else to do. So it looked like it was getting better. And then today kind of rolled around and it's not. So I have to go back to the doctor tomorrow and find out what the hell's going on and possibly get a surgery because they say that I did something to my ribs and it might be pinching a nerve. So I guess we'll find out. But because of that, today I was distracted. I didn't have time to finish my self-harm speech that I wanted to do. So we're going to just switch real quick and we're going to do next week's episode, relationships, today. And then obviously next week we'll just do that switch. So sorry for the confusion and stuff. That's not what I was aiming for, but that's just where we're at right now. Everything's a little chaotic over here, but trying to get it straightened out. So, relationships. What's the definition of a relationship? A relationship is the way two people are connected or the way they behave towards each other. Pretty self-explanatory, I guess, right? There's a lot of different types. And when I was doing this, I was thinking to myself, I was like, how would I want to talk about relationships? Like, what's it like to be in a relationship, all that. But I really wanted to dive into it, like the different dynamics, because especially in the way things are nowadays, there's so many different types of relationships. There's just one-on-one relationships, there's multiple partner relationships, there's so many different types. And there's also different elements in normal relationships that are broken down into categories. So I wanted to dive into that and then kind of get a little bit of a definition to each one of them. And there was actually some of them on there that I learned about, and I was like, wow, I didn't even know these things existed. So it's just like a little interesting thing, in the weeks leading up to our Valentine's Day. And our Valentine's Day one, we're going to talk about physical intimacy and stuff like that. So to get it started, you have your basic first one, which is just a romantic relationship. Now, it's defined as a mutual and ongoing and voluntary interactions between two partners that's characterized and by specific expressions of affection and of intimacy. So this definition basically is the contemporary ideas of a regular relationship. So an example would be marriage, or a deep love, deep profound love, or a trusted commitment, or a domestic partnership or unionship. Those would be your typical romantic relationship. Most people have been in one. You can kind of get what I'm hinting at and what I'm going for with that. So you know it when you see it. And if you've been in one, you kind of know what it feels like. Love, affection, intimacy, all those sorts of things. Then we move on to, I guess, basically the opposite of that, which is an asexual relationship. And basically what that is someone who doesn't experience sexual attraction towards individuals of any gender at all. Asexuality is a sexual orientation that's different from celibacy. Because remember, celibacy is, you've done the deed and then you're choosing not to do it anymore. This is someone who's not doing the deed at all and didn't do the deed because they don't find anything attractive. They refrain from engaging in all sexual behaviors, and they don't have any attraction whatsoever to either side or anything in between. So, I guess that's a normal thing. I've never heard of that. I figured that you would be attracted to at least one side of the fence, but I guess there is things for everybody, you know? And that was the whole part of like this with the learning and stuff. You're learning about different things, like things that I didn't even know existed. Then you kind of boil down into the different dynamics of when you're in a relationship, just a little bit. So an insecure relationship would be a different type of relationship. And what that is you're unsure and unconfident about your relationship. It's a deep belief that you just aren't good enough for your partner, or that you don't deserve love, or one of the other limiting beliefs that cause you to feel, tremendous anxiousness. You're going to doubt your own values, and you're going to have low self-esteem and low worth. I myself was in an insecure relationship where I was constantly doubting myself and constantly feeling bad and constantly feeling manipulated, so I can understand where that's coming from. And, the evolution of the actual relationship is constantly changing because you don't know where you stand with that person, because maybe they're belittling you or making you believe things that aren't true. So, you don't realize what's real and what's not real. And unfortunately, it's super toxic. So it's a tough thing to be in. It is. And it's only once you kind of get out of that or, fix the insecurities within yourself, whatever the case may be, is when you can find that happiness and that peace. It just really depends on, you and the actual person that you're with. But it's not a healthy thing. It's not a healthy thing whatsoever. And a lot of these things on here aren't. A lot of these things on here aren't healthy relationships. Like, when we get into the next part, you'll see, like, it dives into, like, the real toxicity part, or the toxic parts of relationships. And how if somebody is in the driver's seat as a manipulator, how they can steer that, and how what you could believe is a romantic relationship could actually be something a lot more toxic and chaotic than you thought. The next one we're going to talk about is a long-distance relationship. So that's a romantic relationship between two people who live far apart and are unable to meet on a frequent basis. So while there's no hard or fast rule about how far apart they must be to be considered long-distance, a lot of people think that anything more than 2 hours away from each other would be considered like a long-distance thing. So, and that doesn't even have to be in a sexual relationship. That could just be like a friendship relationship too. Like Stormy is what are you, like 20 something hours away?
A long ways away.
A long ways away. Yes. And and we've been friends for a very, very long time. And there's lots of different things that go along with this. Now I'll make a joke. I'll make like a stupid joke. So the stupid joke is that we were talking about before. I think it was last week. We were talking about it, right? We said that Nick was in an open relationship, but he didn't realize it because she never told him. So the next one, right? So the next one is an open relationship. So an open relationship means that you're having more than one romantic or sexual partner at a time. It's an arrangement that both parties agree on, non-exclusively or non-monogamously, as one or both partners engage in romantic or, sexual activity outside the relationship. It's an agreement aspect that has to be the key. So, in order for it to not be considered cheating, you're both mutually agreeing to this openness and such. But that was the joke that we made last week. It was like, because I've been in a lot of cheating relationships and stuff like that. It's like, well, nobody told me that it was open. And that was my bad. But anyway, then you have your basic friendship. So, friendship, it's basically just a state of mind enduring, attention, esteem, intimacy, trust between two people. And in all cultures, friendships are important. It doesn't matter what your background is or where you come from. Friendship is important to everybody. Human beings are social creatures. So you want to have that person that you can count on, that you can rely on, that you can talk to whenever you need something, that, has your back through thick and thin. Those are like super, super important. And if you don't have those, you're going to miss that aspect of your life, but you're also going to shelter yourself to having, I guess, not as fulfilling of a lifestyle. You're not learning new beliefs. You're not experiencing new things. You're not bonding with somebody. You're not having that social interaction. So it makes it difficult. So, everybody has a friend, I think. I would hope. So acquaintances, a person who you've been in contact with but is not a close friend. I'm sure I have too many acquaintances, especially working the window at the post office, you know what I mean? I think like there's too many of them. Then there's the casual aspect of it. So the casual is a physical and emotional relationship between two people who may have casual intimacy or near sexual relationship without necessarily demanding or expecting additional commitments or more of a formal relationship thing. I thought that might be the same thing as like friends with benefits or something, but apparently no, that's a whole different thing. You know, casual is, I guess, just exactly how you say it. It's keeping it casual. Stormy, before I go on any further, is there anything you wanted to add so far?
Not so far, just that I feel like a lot of our relationships and even friendships, um, honestly, like growing up, we look to our parents, we look to, relatives, grandparents, our elders you know, for advice and seeing them in relationships and the things they are doing. I feel like definitely affects the children as they get older with their relationships.
Yeah,
I know in my
absolutely.
case, it has.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't
So
agree more.
I feel like, yeah, definitely childhood, just looking up to your parents or whoever, that's, their relationships and what they tell you about relationships. Cause I mean, you do learn relationships from your parents
Sure.
typically.
Yeah,
So yeah, that is like a big factor, I think, in as an adult of how you handle your relationships as well.
definitely. Definitely. And it's a lot of things in life. You know, a lot of the subjects that we talk about on our Tuesday night healings and stuff like that, you know, a lot of it stems from that. You know, when we go into our borderline talks or bipolar or whatever the case may be, just general anxiety, any of that stuff, you know, a lot of that stems from your parents and how you were raised and the things you saw when you were, you know, growing up in the household and stuff. So, yeah. And that's why, you know, we always talk and we always stress, like, when you have a kid and you make that commitment, you know, you step up and you raise them. You do the right thing. You're there for them. You know, you try to give them a 50% better lifestyle than you had. And I mean, that's how, at least in my opinion, I measure success on being a parent. If I can provide for my kid a way better life than I had, then obviously I'm doing something right. And, you know, that's really all you can do. You want to set or lead by example and, you know, try to give them the best possible way to flourish in life, to set the example, to set the tone, and, you know, guide them along the way and pick them up when they fall, you know, and then kind of just be there, you know, be open to their beliefs and ideals and such, and just, you know, be there for the ride, support them no matter what. All right, so now we're going to go into my favorite one: toxic relationships. Toxic relationship is one that's unhealthy and the dynamics cause you to distress or harm because you're unsupported, manipulated, or disrespected. While we all have our moments and seasons of selfishness, a truly toxic person will take and give you nothing in return. I know we have spent, God, I don't know how many weeks talking about different aspects of toxic relationships and toxic people and narcissists and manipulators and liars and cheaters and just all of it. I mean, it's terrible that nowadays when we're going through, I guess, basically how relationships play out now, it's just so common. It's unbelievable how unfaithful people are and how manipulative they can be. Like, it's just a very, very sick world out there with this. You know, I mean, what happened to those ideas of like the white picket fence? What happened to that? You meet somebody and you kind of just stick with them through thick and thin, better or worse, like we always talk about. And, you know, what happened to that? It just doesn't seem like that. I think the availability with like social media and stuff like that to always seek something better is always going to outweigh, you know, going through like the mud. And it's unfortunate that things are like that. I mean, there are some of us out there like myself, I'm sure Stormy can say the same, that believe that, like, you know, when you pick somebody, that's the person you stick it out with. You chose to be with them, and if you're unhappy with them, then you simply leave. You don't boil it into all this toxic crap. It's just not good. It's not good to be in the household with that. It's not good, especially like if you have kids or something like that. Like when I was in my situation, I didn't want my child being around that. When she saw that, like I knew it was time to go. It started coming to the house, and I was like, it's time to get the fuck out of here. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing, and then, especially if you're with somebody who's very cunning, they can make you believe that you deserve it, which makes it 10 times worse. I know we've given examples before and stuff, and like I was made to believe that like back then that I wasn't good enough to even be with them, let alone somebody else. And after a while of being with somebody and them convincing you that they feel this, or that they feel this way about you and that you should feel this way about yourself, it's that gaslighting effect, and it's manipulating you, and it's making you believe it. So you keep thinking to yourself like, man, like maybe I really am not good enough. And like, I owe like a huge debt of gratitude to this person for being with someone so terrible as me. And it's abuse. That's all it is. It's just abuse. You may be in a relationship, but it's a very toxic and abusive one. And I mean, personally, I would say that I'd rather not be in one at all than ever go back to something like that, because that was just like sickening. But then what does that turn into? That turns into our next one, the codependent relationship. So the codependent person feels worthless unless they're needed by and making drastic sacrifices for the person enabling them. The enabler gets the satisfaction from getting their every need met by the other person. The codependent is the only one, when happy, making extreme sacrifices for their partner. You're sitting there and you're giving, and like a narcissist. Perfect example, like when we did narcissism and BPD, it's like a moth to a flame. You just want to give and give and give, and then the person just keeps taking, but all you're doing is fueling their narcissistic like intake. And you're not helping yourself. You may think, oh, well, they were kind to me today, like that was really nice, or oh, they sat next to me on the couch, they made me feel good about myself. When those things should just happen naturally. You fall into a codependent situation, and you're going to constantly keep battering yourself internally while trying to impress somebody that at the end of the day could give a shit about you, other than what you can give them as far as like supply. And then like we talked about, they go through those phases. You got the love bomb phase where they're just showering you with affection. You're the greatest thing that ever happened to them. You're the one that they've always waited for their entire life, and they just are so lucky to have you, and you're just like, whoa, this is incredible. Like, I feel so good about this. And then boom, the lies start coming in, the cheating starts coming in, the gaslighting starts coming in, and then you just start feeling crazy. Like, it literally makes you feel like you're going insane. And it's not you. You could sit there and be doing the best thing you possibly can, but at the end of the day, it's not you. These people are crafted to be this way and manipulate you and kind of stick their finger in the dam and turn it just to twist your emotions and get you to where they want to be, because, like the marionette, they're pulling the strings to make you dance and do all these things, but you don't even realize it because you're so enthralled at that point. Like, but this person loved me so much. They told me I'm the greatest thing. Like, I'm their soulmate. Like, this is what I was looking for. And you just keep believing it. And the whole time they're just dangling you around. Like, yeah, keep believing it. Keep believing it. And then by that point, or at that point, you know what I mean? Then the devalue and discard stage is coming up. And you feel like so crazy at that point, and they're done with you. They probably already got somebody else on the side that they're getting more supply from. So your whole supply that you had is running out, and you're on your way out the door, and you don't even realize it. And then boom, it hits you in the face, and they want nothing to do with you. You're like their worst enemy, and just like, it's over so quickly. And you don't even realize it. And then, by the time that you finally figure out what the hell happened and get away from it and stuff, you're like, wow, like that was so toxic and disgusting. Like, I cannot believe that I went through that. Because nobody deserves to go through that sort of thing. Nobody. We're supposed to be kind to one another and to, love each other and take care of each other. It's not to do shit like that. I mean, I get like what Stormy said before, the household and stuff when you're growing up, maybe there was manipulative parents, maybe there was like abuse or such, and these people just kind of turned out that way because of that. Yes. And I feel for that, especially if it's something like narcissism. It is a mental illness. It is. And to a certain degree, some of the things that are done are subconsciously. But I also believe in taking personal responsibility as well. If I'm doing something that's wrong, and I know it's wrong, but I'm deliberately doing it, then it's up to me to take that personal responsibility to own it and then fix it. Not to just constantly sit there and say, well, I'm a narcissist, so that's why I do that. Because it's not acceptable. It's not. You have to step up and take ownership for your actions. So we go into our next one, which is a complicated relationship. It's complicated. A complicated relationship might involve not knowing exactly where you stand. You might have poor communication, differing expectations, or problems with boundaries, or even conflicts over different aspects of your individual lives. Is your relationship status hovering somewhere between single and committed and complicated? Somewhere in there. You know there's something going on, but it's complicated, right? The next one, situationship. Now, when I first read about this one, I was kind of like, what is this? Like, is it just because it's like a situation? Like you guys are in like some sort of whatever? It's actually a little bit different. So it's emotionally connected, but without commitment or future planning. The labels boyfriend and girlfriend, they don't really apply, but it's beyond a casual hookup. It includes like going out on dates and maybe hooking up and building intimacy without any clear thing in mind. So you're basically like a boyfriend and girlfriend without the titles or commitments. So there's no cheating, there's no nothing. Like you don't live together. It's just, I don't know. I guess it's just like it's not a friends with benefits though. And I want to say that, but that's a whole different thing on here. But it's more than that, but less than that, just different. I guess even with friends with benefits, there's more commitment because you're friends and, you're whatever. But there's no commitment whatsoever. It's just kind of like, hey, it's Friday night. What are you doing? Like, let's go out on a date. Like, I don't know. That was kind of different when I was learning about that one. Then you have your typical dating. So dating is when two people are in an intimate relationship. The relationship may be sexual, but does not have to be. And it can be serious or casual, straight, gay, monogamous, open, short-term, long-term. Anything. Whatever you're into, whatever you want to be a part of, anything like that, that's considered dating. If you're going out and actively pursuing this person for whatever the end result to be, that would be the definition of dating. Going out on dates, fun. It's fun times, right? I think everybody could sit there and say that they've had good stories, bad stories. I would say if I had to pick one as an example, I would say my worst date would be I went out on a date, and it was a couple of years ago. I went on a date, and I was talking to this person, and I guess they also served in the military, so we had common ground there. And we went out to a diner locally, and when I got there, I realized that like I had made a massive mistake by getting there because it was just off the wall. This person was like a performer of some sorts, so they were actually like kind of like broke out into a whole like theater production routine of whatever book they were reading, standing up and like enunciating themselves and like saying all these things. And I was just kind of like sitting there while everyone else in the diner was looking at me, and I was just like, oh my God, like what have I done? Like, what is this? But I'm not one of those people to be rude, so I just kind of like sat through it and was just like, oh, okay, sure. And I didn't eat or anything because I felt so embarrassed at the time because I mean, when I say like, it was almost like everything was like quiet, like the stuff you see in movies, and it just like broke out into like a show tune, and I'm just like, all right then, like this is different. And I remember I paid for dinner, I was trying to be a gentleman or whatever, and I was just like, okay, I gotta go, like this is, it was like snowing out and stuff. I was like, I gotta go, like it's getting pretty bad out here, like it's getting dicey. And she had even mentioned to me, she was like, oh, like that was like a lot of fun, like would you like to do it again? And I was just like, no, actually, I think I'm okay. But everybody has good ones, they have bad ones. It is what it is. Like I said, we like to joke around on here and stuff like that, so we're just keeping it loose, especially because some of the topics we talk about can be a little more difficult. And for anybody who's joined us late, we were going to do self-harm tonight, but I didn't have my speech ready and stuff like that, so we just switched next week's episode of relationships to this week, and we're going to do self-harm next week. So if you came for the self-harm one, I promise we are doing it. It's just moved till Tuesday, and we'll do relationships today. The WB Frog. Yes. It wasn't quite as extravagant as the WB Frog. It was not the Michigan Rag, but it was similar. It was scarily similar. All right, so our next relationship, a dominating relationship. That's where one partner is controlling the other partner because of their dominant personality. Such as a person tries to control every aspect of the relationship, which also includes how the other person reacts or feels. In a relationship, obviously, you want to make two equals. You want both of you to be equal in the relationship, have as much input, as much say, as much ownership of the relationship as possible, evenly. You can't have one person doing all the work and another person not doing anything, because it's never going to succeed that way. In a dominating relationship, you know what I mean? One person is obviously dominating and controlling that entire relationship. But some people fall in that habit. It does. And it's not just like a man controlling a woman. There are so many relationships where it's vice versa, where the woman is actually controlling the man. And, you know, without using names or anything like that, I personally know somebody that is a controlling woman who seeks out emotionally weak men to specifically control them and bend them to her will. And she's very, very talented at it. Very. And it's just one of those things, like, to actually see that from a side perspective, to watch her do this to people, like, it's wild. It's wild the things that she can get them to believe and do. So it can be on either side. It doesn't have to be the masculinity aspect of it that's controlling the feminine. And a lot of times it's actually reversed. Now we're going to the one that I've mentioned a couple times, friends with benefits. This actually is its own thing. It's not one of the other 5 different things that sound exactly like it. Friends with benefits is a friend with whom you have occasional and casual intimacy with. That's it. No other commitment, strictly other than that. Then we go into a committed relationship. It's similar to what our first one was, our romantic relationship, but a little bit different. It's one where your partner intentionally say yes to a future together. And that right there is the specific difference than the romantic one. A committed relationship is you are planning a future with this person. You are talking about a future with this person, whether that be marriage, children, moving in together, whatever the case may be. You are committed to this person and this person only. And you basically are mapping out together a future with each other. I mean, that's, again, what we talked about before. That's what everybody, I believe, would strive for. But some people are okay with, you know, the openness and stuff like that and the different partners and such. And that's fine. You know, as long as you're not hurting anybody, there's nothing wrong with it. But again, it's all about understanding. It's all about communication. And like we talked about, emotional wellness, which we've talked about a lot recently. Being emotionally well, being in tune with what your body needs, being in tune with, you know, what can you get out of the situation? What can you give out of the situation? You know, take your experiences, change them, help other people learn from them so they don't have to experience the pain that you've experienced. You can kind of just pass the buck forward, pay it forward, you know. So that's what that's about. I have controlling relationship on here. It's one where a partner dominates over the other one. I guess the only difference is between that and a dominating one is that you're made to feel intimidated, insecure, guilty, and like you're abused in some sort of way. So I guess that's the difference between a dominating relationship and a controlling relationship. Dominating, you know, there's just one clear person in there that's running the relationship, whereas to, you know, that one, it's actually like abuse. It's abusive. You know it when you see it. There's a lot of warning signs, you know, especially if you are not in the relationship. Maybe it's a friend. You know, we've talked about before these types of things, these toxic relationships. You see them withdrawing. You see them not wanting to be able to hang out with you anymore, be able to talk to you as frequently, or they got to constantly check with their significant other if they can do simple tasks. Like, you know it when you see it, especially if that friend has been with you for quite some time. You can tell that there's changes. You can tell. And you just got to be there for them. You can't sit there and hassle them and make them feel bad and say like, well, just leave him, just leave him, just leave him. You're not in the situation. You don't know exactly what's going on behind those closed doors. It could be a lot worse than what you think. Sometimes it's not as simple as to just stand up and just simply walk away. There may be other things that you don't know about. If there wasn't those things, IDTV and all those types of channels and stuff like that wouldn't have so many shows on them, because that's exactly where these things stem from and what they turn into when people try to leave. Now, before we keep going with the more other end of this types of relationships, did you want to add anything, Stormy?
I was just going to say, me personally, I've always been in the committed long-term relationships. I've never casually dated. I've never, done things like that. It's always been with the intent for a committed long-term relationship. And I've been in 2 of those. And both of them were like 15 years plus. So, and there was so many different dynamic changes throughout it, like the things you were talking about, like the domineering, the controlling, toxic, codependent. I mean, I feel like I've ran through a lot of those different things between the 2 long-term relationships. So it's kind of interesting to have it broke down the way you did it. And then you think back, well, okay, I've dealt with that. I've dealt with that. So it's interesting to talk about it and break it down into those different things, because so many people experience a lot of that or a few of those things, but it's crazy to think when you think back on it.
It is like the evolution, you know what I mean? You're not just in one of these relationships. These all can like manifest into different things. You could start out in a committed relationship. It could turn into a dominating one. It could turn into an open one. It could turn into, you know what I mean? Like a casual one, a toxic one. It can just ever evolve as it goes down the line. And I think that's, what Stormy's saying. Like, obviously, like she's saying, she's in it for the romantic aspect of it and the committed aspect of it, and then down the line things change and manifest and mold into something else, and it winds up on the other end of that tunnel not being exactly what it started as. It's unfortunate, but it does turn out that way quite often. But how do you prevent these types of things? Because that's what we always get into. We get into, here's the problem, here's this, how do we fix it? Mindfulness, openness, communication, trust, honesty, loyalty, commitment. They're just words until you make them into something. They're just words until you take those things that you're saying and turn them into actions. You can't sit there and tell somebody like, oh, I'll always be honest with you, I'll always be true to you and stuff like that, and then boom, you're lying to them. Boom, you're cheating on them. You can't tell them simple things like, to the extent of, they'll ask you, oh, did you go and do this today? And you can't even just tell the truth about something simple as to whether you took the garbage out. It starts out small like that, but it manifests always into something a lot bigger. And by that time, you're telling so many lies that you don't even know what's going on. And that's what a lot of these like bad relationships, because not all these are bad relationships, but some of the bad ones in here manifest because of simple things like that. They just keep growing. It's like the kid that goes into like the candy store and steals like a piece of candy, and they get away with it. So maybe next time they go in there and steal 2 pieces. And it just keeps going and going and going. And by the time you're caught, you know what I mean? You had just created like this whole mess of a problem. I never got that personally. I never got that in situations how people just can't be honest. I've always been one to be completely honest. Be brutally honest. It's tough sometimes, but it pays off in the end, because you're playing with people's emotions. You're playing with people's feelings. You got to be upfront, especially when it comes to like relationships. If you're going to be in a relationship, talk to the person. Tell them what it is that you're looking for, because you're just as much of a part of it as they are. So when you come out and you tell them like, hey, this is what I need in order for me to feel fulfilled. I need somebody that's going to be there for me. I need somebody that's going to be honest and truthful and loyal and, can understand my background or whatever the case may be. And then they're obviously going to have their own needs and stuff. To which point you really need to stop and take an inventory and say, can I meet this person's expectations? Can I meet this person's needs? if you're even having doubts from the beginning about meeting their basic expectations, then maybe you shouldn't get into it, because all you're going to do is hurt them in the long run. And then possibly yourself as well. And it's not worth it. Just be upfront and be honest. Hey, this isn't working. Hey, I don't like this. Hey, whatever the case may be. Just be honest. And in return, not only will you feel better, but the person you're talking to will have a hell of a lot more respect for you than if you had just blatantly lied to them, or the typical bullshit that we talk about on here when you're ghosting people, because that's the new thing to do. Why? I don't understand it. It's just much simpler just to be honest with the person. Hey, we went out on a date. It didn't work. There's no need for bad blood. There's no need for the games that people play nowadays. It's just be honest. Now we're going to go into our more non-traditional relationships. So, a materialistic relationship would be one. And that would be in a relationship with someone just specifically for wealth or possessions. And I'm going to let Stormy jump in on this one. And it's not because she does it, but an inside joke that we have since we started doing this stuff on TikTok is Stormy gets certain messages from people. And it was happening very, very frequently when we first started doing this. Wanting her to be in a materialistic relationship, or another word for that would be a sugar baby. So Stormy, did you want to make a comment on your recent exploits in being a sugar baby?
Well, if you look at my TikTok page, I have on there a disclaimer. I don't even know what it says, but it has something to the effect of like, do not want to be your sugar baby, or I'm not looking for a sugar daddy, and I'm not interested in a psychic reading. Yeah, right. So, I mean, and really TikTok's probably mild compared to like Facebook groups, Discord groups that I've been in for different games, different, music groups or whatever.
Yeah.
You get, these guys that just instantly, they see female, they start getting in your DMs. I mean, they start sending you pictures of body parts that you don't want to see. I mean, they want to fly you out to meet them. They want to send you flowers and gifts. And I mean, it's just insane, the materialistic. And, some women probably fall for that. I get it. They probably have never been treated that way. So it is something like, hey, this person wants to spend all this money on me. I just don't feel like it's that exciting to me, personally, whatever floats somebody's boat, I guess.
And you know what? It's actually becoming more popular in like today's culture and stuff like that too, because it seems like maybe so much not with like the millennials, but maybe the one after that, where they're coming up and stuff like that, and they don't have the money to do it, but they have the looks. Because every time, if you look now, at least what I see, when you go on social media and stuff like that, if you're going through like Facebook, you're going through Reels, or TikTok, you're going through the videos and stuff like that, a lot of them's like a very pretty girl wearing next to nothing, doing something innocuous, but it has like 50,000 views, and all she's doing is just like standing there in a bathing suit, like looking up at a cloud and being like, it looks like a dog. And then like they have this, but you're sexualizing yourself and stuff like that for money and attention and materialistic objects. It's just, I don't know. Where's your self-respect at that point? And a lot of it, and it's not to knock any other creators or anything like that, but, are you really creating anything of quality? What is your, like, contribution to the rest of society? If you're just standing there and, like, I don't know, shaking your, like, I saw one the other day, like, there was this girl, and she was just, like, shaking herself and stuff like that. So, I guess people watching would see, like, oh, she's not wearing a bra or something. But there's like kids around, like she's standing in line at Disney, and I'm just like really, like is this what it's stumped to? You can't come up with like content and quality. You have to just like shake your breasts in public in front of children and stuff like that because views. Like is that really what it's about? I mean, I feel like social media has so many different aspects of it. You should be using it to help people, not do things like that. Like that just doesn't seem right. Where's your self-respect? I mean,
I feel like on that part of it, I mean that's kind of what I see too a lot of times, that the people that have the most views or whatever are, using sex to exploit viewers or get viewers and for monetary reasons. Same thing with like the OnlyFans type things. I mean, there's other ways to do it, and there's other ways to use the platform for things like we're doing, and things like that. And I wish that was more popular than someone shaking TNA.
Yeah, yeah. Which, by the way, subscribe to my OnlyFans. I'm fucking kidding. I'm kidding.
That's also a running joke with those about the OnlyFans, which is so funny. But yeah.
No, I'm completely kidding. But yeah, no, it's terrible that it's come to that it's actually manifested into those sort of things. I don't know. I'll never understand that part of it. And if it's fearful as a parent and stuff like that, especially of a young girl. The stuff she sees when she's on TikTok, the stuff she sees that when she's on not Facebook, because she's not on that, when she's on YouTube or Snapchat with her little friends, because I don't really have control over what she has downloaded because she doesn't live with me, so, her phone's under her mom, so some of the stuff I hear her listening to and stuff, I'm just like, whoa, you need to turn this off, I have to have a conversation with her mom and stuff, this is, what is she watching? How does she have access to see these sort of things? This is, stuff that I don't even want to be hearing. And, it worries me as a parent that when she sees those things, that's what are we doing? Why are we polluting their minds with that? And what is their outlook going to be when they hit our age after growing up seeing nothing but this filth and shit? So, it's tough. All right. Now we're going to go into playful love. Playful love is also called ludus. I did not know that. It's a very flirtatious and fun without any strings that come with eros or pragma. I don't know what these things are. I tried looking them up. I'm assuming it has something to do with astrology, but I don't know for sure. It can be seen in very early stages of relationships when two people are flirting or courting each other or crushing on each other. It often involves a lot of laughing or teasing or feeling giddy, around the person. It's the fun part. It's that playfulness, when you first start going out, where everything's exciting, the honeymoon phase, the beauty of it, where all you guys think about is each other. All you think about is, oh, I wonder if they're thinking of me, or what are we going to do this weekend, or when am I going to see them next, or this, the good parts, those are the things that get you hooked in the first place, is it not? Okay, now these last two, before we start going into our conclusion and stuff, these last two are polyamorous and polygamist. They're different things. To be polyamorous means that you have an open and intimate or romantic relationship with more than one person at a time. People who are polyamorous can have any sexual orientation, and these types of relationships can include people from different sexual orientations. So you could have a relationship with a few different people. You could have a bisexual relationship here, a straight relationship here, a gay relationship here. It could be anything. You're just having it. But the key is that open communication, and it's not just one person. And that's where a difference is with polygamists, because polygamists, it's one person practicing the marital of multiple spouses. So, it could be a man married to, more than one woman, that you see, in those polygamy colonies and such. When a woman's married to more than one husband at a time, it's actually called polyandry. There is its own name, because that also is a thing as well. It doesn't have to be the man with multiple wives. It could be the woman with multiple husbands. It can go either way. The difference is that it's one taking on all others, whereas to this is just kind of like a group thing that's going on, but everyone's consenting to everything there. Polygamous, a lot of people, it's used with religion and stuff like that, or it's just it can turn into a dominating thing. You hear about a lot of these things, especially now that are coming out with Amish communities and stuff, where it's built into their tradition, and they're being controlled by this master manipulator who's taking on teenage wives and stuff like that. It's a lot of toxic stuff that goes on with that. I'm sure that's why it's outlawed, and that you can't do that. But to get around that, people do the polyamorous thing. But that's also it's not a negative thing too, because some people believe in free love. And before we start going into, why we do it and our closing and stuff like that, it's food for thought. Some people believe that if we were meant to be monogamous, why weren't we already born married? If, in the animal kingdom and stuff like that, animals have different partners, multiple different partners and stuff like that. Why can't human beings? You can. It all depends on what you want. I actually served in the Navy with a person who lives in that type of environment, who has a community that she lives within where multiple people live in there, but they're all in a relationship together. And she's very happy. And they raise children and stuff like that, and it works for them. It really just depends on you. The free love, that aspect of like the hippie culture, or, the open expression, artistic views and stuff like that. There is that freedom to experience different things and to, not be contained to just a single being and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It really just depends on what you believe in. Everybody's entitled to their own beliefs, and everybody only has one life to live. And if that's what makes you happy, then you should be able to pursue that and, experience that. You shouldn't, it's not just about conforming to, the normal ideals that is like what Stormy said before, set out by your parents, because maybe your parents had like the most toxic relationship in the entire world. And from that stemmed that you didn't want to be in a one-on-one marriage because you didn't want to do that because of what you saw. And you wound up being with multiple people, but everyone's okay with it within this circle. There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what makes everybody happy and you're all striving and taking care of each other, you should be able to do that. There's no judgment. Us doing the relationship and stuff in our Tuesday night healings, we never judge. It's like our big thing. We're always open and honest, and we tackle tough subjects and stuff. And it's all about information. It's all about helping and reaching out and just being a part of it. And sometimes it goes good, sometimes it doesn't, but it's never to be judgmental. If you enjoy being in any one of those relationships we went through, then more power to you. That's amazing. I'm envious that you can find something that makes you happy like that. That's awesome. It's something that has fleeted me my entire life, but you find comfort in it eventually. You know what I mean? Like, I've been single for like 7 years, which we've talked about many times, and I couldn't be happier. Everything's great with that. I took my last relationship, all that negative stuff, and rolled into something positive. I got my own house. I started writing books. Now I'm publishing the 3rd book. In a couple months, it'll be out. Like, so many positive things come out of it. And you could take all that negative and stuff like that and just roll it into something so positive, and it manifests at that point. And then you stop worrying about that creature comfort all the time, or you stop worrying about the, man, like I can't be alone. Like, you can. One of the greatest things I always thought was that, how can you be good company for somebody else if you can't even be good company for yourself? If you're not happy being alone, then you're never going to be able to be happy being in a relationship, because you don't know who you are. If you never take that time to sit down and figure out what it is that you're into and what you like and where you see yourself going in the future and stuff like that, then all you're going to do is just take your previous stuff and just keep building it onto the next person, onto the next person, onto the next person. And in that point, you're going to lose yourself, because you're not even going to know what it is about you that you need fulfilled, what it is about you that you like, what's the type of person that you're seeking. You need to take that time and just like relax. And like I said, one of the people that I know, when our relationship ended, she was like incapable of being alone. Like, the relationship ended, a week later she was in another one. That relationship ended, 6 days later she was in the next one. Like, how are you ever figuring it out what it is that you want? And why is it that you're afraid to be alone? Why is it that you're afraid to, just have that space? Like, why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want to just take a step back and say, hey, I just got out of something, like, whether it was like really awesome and I got my heart broken, or it was so terrible, like, why wouldn't you want to just take that time and just be like, you know what, let me just take it slow, figure out what it is that I need in order to make myself happy, and then coast into whatever it is that you're working on. But, I'm only here to give information, not to judge or anything like that. So it is what it is. But to bring us into our closing, why do we do it? So the first reason would be because, healthy relationships encourage personal growth. There's no better feeling than having someone cheer you on during life's ups and downs. There's no better feeling. Creature comfort. We say it billions of times. Billions. When you have someone in your life who will support you no matter what, you're more confident and you're more self-assured. These relationships will enable you to take greater risks and chase after your dreams because you have a strong foundation of support no matter what the outcome is. You have somebody who's got your back through thick and thin. You can take those chances in life. You can be honest. You can be open because that person says, no matter what, I got you. I'm not going to judge you. I got you. Number 2 would be a positive relationships add meaning to our lives. It's a human nature to want to feel needed and be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves. Because many people strive to make positive change in this world and enjoy the feeling of doing something good for someone else. Being in a loving and healthy relationship, whether it be romantic or platonic, can give a person a sense of purpose and fulfillment. In fact, supporting others in turn can actually make us all happier and stronger. Just like we do in our Tuesday Night Healings. We're all helping each other. We're helping each other learn and overcome the demons of our past and stuff like that, or the demons of our future that haven't come yet or will come or are happening now. Helping each other. Just cut out there for a second. Number 3, healthy relationships can decrease stress and lead to a longer life. So research suggests that the social and emotional support from a committed relationship or strong friendship can be a buffer against stress. Studies also suggest many biological benefits, including lower blood pressure and stronger immune systems. Reversely, studies have also suggested that a lack of social relationships can cause the same effect as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So if you don't have healthy relationships in your life, it's the equivalent to smoking almost a pack of cigarettes a day. And I guess if you are already a smoker and you don't have any positive relationships, you are just doubly fucked. Number 4, social support in life. It's helpful to surround yourself with people that you can trust and learn from. This could mean being an excellent listener or a wise mentor, or being available to help a friend with any situation, like, if they had to move their house or something like that. No matter how big or small, these are supportive ways to strengthen your social and support system. Positive stuff. Positive. So it's, the encouragement of us at the Paradise Collection to go out there and make friends and be social and to, share that side of yourself with everybody and just be there. It's positive. Because if not, it's going to be just as bad as smoking a pack of cigarettes. I mean, I know that's saying something coming from a smoker, but you know what I mean? Don't do it. Make friends. Stormy, is there anything you wanted to add before we go into our close here?
No, I think I covered everything.
Okay. So like I said before, just our final wrap up here. There's so many different types of relationships that are out there. You finding the one that speaks to you and means the most to you is the key. To be a participant in it, in itself, can be so rewarding. It can also be very traumatizing. Being open and honest and making sure everyone involved is in on what's going on is the key to having happiness in any one of these different dynamics. Whether it be straight or gay or bi or open or whatever the case may be. Everyone is entitled to be loved. And that is the greatest feeling, is to love someone and be loved in return. That's just the way we're wired. But the key is being open and honest and being there for each other. Because like we always say when we're coming to our closings and stuff, we help each other. If you have to one day get down on your knees so somebody could step on your back to get them up to the next point, that's what it's all about. That's what it is. And I mean, some of the messages I've gotten from you guys through these live chats and stuff like that, it's just incredible. And it's so humbling to be a part of doing that and just taking that time out to be there and, hear what you think. Not about the books or anything like that. Just strictly about our healings. Just saying like, wow, because of what you said the other night, like that actually was like really cool and it helped me out in this situation I was in. That in itself is so rewarding. Unbelievably rewarding. And it's not doing it to be selfish whatsoever. I'm not doing it for the recognition or acknowledge or anything like that. I truly believe that the world would be a better place if each one of us just, at least just like a little bit, took the time to help one another, to sit down and listen to somebody when they're having a bad day, even if it's a complete stranger, or your best friend, or your family member, whatever the case may be. Maybe you're walking through the park or something like that, and you see a stranger standing there, and you can just tell like they're upset. If you got nothing going on, why not take 10 minutes just to say, hey, do you want to talk about it or something like that? Maybe that moment right there of you just selflessly putting yourself out there to just listen made that person have just that much of a better day. That they didn't go home and drink themselves to sleep. That they didn't go home and self-harm. That they didn't go home and consider the other alternatives of just completely ending it. Just because of something stupid you did, as far as just sitting out there, reaching your hand out and saying, let me help you. It doesn't take much effort. It really doesn't. And this world would be such a better place if people could just see it that way and just look out for each other, because we're all human beings. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter your religion, race, sexual orientation, any of that. We're all in it together. So we have to be there to support each other. We have to. And, you know, especially like in the mental health community that we always talk about, it could just take the smallest bit of kindness to get somebody to pull out of what could turn into such a deadly circumstance. Just as much as holding the door open for somebody. Like my whole thing is like at the window when I'm working, I try to do one nice thing per day for somebody. Just one. And then that butterfly effect could have changed their day completely. Just for something stupid. Telling them that they have nice shoes on, or complimenting something, or, you know, suggesting something else, or helping them out with a problem that they may be having. It could change their whole demeanor throughout the day. And that changes somebody else's, and somebody else's, and somebody else's, and it just keeps going. And this is how we change things. You know, it's the same thing with mental health like we talk about. In order for us to bring it out of the darkness is to talk about it. Is to put your heart out there and stuff like that, and be willing to have people judge you. We're not all perfect. None of us are perfect. And that's not what it's about. But if you're honest about what you're doing and you put yourself out there so people will understand you, you're going to get a lot more, you know, receptiveness and less judgment. And that's what it's about. You know, we're all here, like we always say, to reach out to us. You know, I always welcome people to reach out to me. I love hearing, you know, what's going on and trying to help the best that I can. So I know Stormy's open to it too, and she's very good at helping as well. So, you know, if anyone's feeling that, anybody who's watching, like when we're doing this, anyone that's live or the YouTube replays or on Facebook when we post it there, you know, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. And, you know, if there's any topics you want discussed, I know people have submitted a few before. That's why I came up with the list, and I posted it, which is on the TikTok, so you can see what's coming up. You know, and I'll be posting another one right after Valentine's Day with our next schedule. But, you know, I've gotten some good input on what some people want to hear. And I know that we've been wanting to do the bipolar one because somebody asked about that a few months ago. That will be on the docket as well. And we're going to touch a little bit on it next week when we do self-harm. So what to expect going forward, and then we'll close this out. Thursday, we always do our book review, Paradise Reborn. We are going to be reading chapter 12, The Old Clock Diner. We're going to be getting a little, you know, into it this week. Steve actually is doing band practice, so he might not be able to join us, although he doesn't really have a speaking point in this chapter. Next week's episode, yes, that's when the old Twain will be back, and Detective Hunt. So it'll be more involved there. This week is more going to be like Gwen and Stella and Stacy's communication, and then only one new character is introduced, Cindy Travers. So Stormy and I will take that on, and we'll get that going and give you guys the best show that we possibly can. I've been getting a lot of good feedback. A lot of people have been messaging me and saying, like, you know, it really brings the book to life when you guys are acting it out and stuff like that. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I mean, I don't know about Stormy. I can't speak for her, but I don't know how people were going to take that when we were doing that. But, you know, we have fun with it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's actually, I'm sure it's more fun for you to have other people involved than just you reading it to everybody.
It does take the spotlight off, yeah. So it's like I'm not sitting there sweating
Yes.
under the lamp, like, oh, like I'm playing like 4 characters at once. I wonder if anybody knows what the fuck I'm talking about. But yeah, no, it definitely does, and it is a lot of fun. It is, and I know Steve when he was doing Betty, we call her the old Twain. He was having a lot of fun with it, and he's trying right now to internalize his character to be Detective Hunt. Like he's trying to be that rash prick that I need him to be for this book. So that's what we're doing Thursday. And then next Tuesday, we're going to do our self-harm one. It was my apologies, anyone that joined tonight specifically for the self-harm one. That was my bad. Like I said, I've been having some issues with my arm and stuff like that, and work was just a little busy today, so I kind of left my stuff at work today. But I had this one done because I was supposed to be going to South Carolina next week, but with all the complications I got going on, I'm just going to hang around here and, focus on going to the doctor and figuring out what it is that's going to make my arm stop going numb. Because that's going to be really amazing. I almost forget what it feels like to not have that. So, yeah, that's where we'll be with that. And then we'll release another schedule, probably the end of next week, on what to expect going forward. So if there's any ideas or things that you want to hear us talk about, please feel free to reach out to us and we can put that in there. As far as book 3, right before I let you go, I have a total of 14 chapters done. It's just the way it was done was that chapters 1 through 12, or 1 through 11, so I have 13. 1 through 11 are done, and then 19 and 20 are done. So I still have to do most of 12 all the way up through 18. But I still am anticipating the April release. At the end of February, we are really going to start promoting this book to get you guys hyped for it. A couple things in the work as far as teaser trailers and such like that. And we're going to go from there. So it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing to look forward to. I hope you guys are excited about it. I hope, the expectations are high. Like I said, I've read to Stormy. Stormy knows how it ends and stuff like that. So she can tell you it's a tearjerker for sure. If you've read the second book, especially the second book is my favorite, but I think this one's shaping up to maybe outdo that. I don't know yet. I'm still on the fence about it because the one we're reading now, Paradise Reborn, is definitely my best work. But this one's pretty good too. So definitely bring your tissues. And then once I publish it, we'll start going into our live reading of that as well.
Lots of tissues.
Lots of tissue. And I'm not being mean or anything like that, but when Stormy heard the ending, you could tell it affected her in a very drastic way. So,
for sure.
Yeah. And, so it's something to look forward to. And, we'll have some fun with it. So I will see you guys again on Thursday at 7 p.m. to do Chapter 12, The Old Talk Diner. And we'll get it going. So, Stormy, I'll let you say goodbye and we'll close it out.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Yep. Good night, everybody. See you again on Thursday.